Gamarjova, and welcome to Georgian Crossroads. This is Byrne, and we continue our trek into the Caucasus with a return to the little village of Snow that I discovered earlier, which includes many wonderful things. It also includes one thing not so wonderful, but we'll discuss that. And but mostly it involves a trek into the mountains to look for 4 shrines, and I think you're going to find this fascinating. Again, a return to the little village of Snow to discover what I knew was there last time, but I didn't have the time nor the energy to explore it. And this time we're here. We're looking for the shrines. Okay, so let's get going. Back to the village of Snow. I find the mountains and the valleys up in the high Caucasus to be extremely peaceful to me. After kind of the more hectic life of Tbilisi, big city, over 1 million people, I find that coming up to these small valleys, particularly the one Snow is located in the Kazbegi region, to be just a wonderful way to unwind from the usual kind of city things. And the weather was going to get warm, up around 80 or 8 more while I was there. But that was about, that was sufficiently cooler than what it was back in Tbilisi. So I arrived at the Januka guest house, but could not find the woman who owns and runs it, Nana. And I discussed this in the last video, but one thing I discovered a little later is that turns out she had died in the last year. I don't know how long ago, but that was something. So her husband was taking over and trying to make a go of things, and I had an event happen to me, which I'll describe in just a moment, which he felt very bad about, though he didn't express it at the time, but I think he saw that it was something important. I noticed this tree from the guest house and the fading sunlight in the valley that first day after I'd been to the Russian border, and so I just set the camera up and just took a picture of a still tree. Somehow just the light on it was, I don't know, highly suggestive of something very meaningful to me. Well, as the light was going down, I went out the road that goes out the back of the valley, and there were the cows coming in. Now, there are about 20 or 30 cows, it seems, in this village that go out to graze in the higher pasture lands. And there's usually one guy who's responsible for taking them out and bringing them in. And obviously these cows do not care if I'm there at all. They're just doing what they do every day. They've got milk in their udders. They need to get rid of it. They know how to do that. They'll also get free food if they do. And they will give their milk. And what's interesting is that these aren't all owned by one person. They're often just maybe one or two cows owned by a family. And they have one man who takes them out for them, and that's his job in the village, essentially. And I suppose he gets some sort of payment. I don't know how that works. But these cows were quite cool. They just walked by me. They saw me there and, made their way around me. And I just sat there, had the camera on the tripod, and you can see the light is fading slowly. It's almost the solstice of the summer. I'm getting too relaxed even looking at this. I almost just let out a big yawn there. But it's because there's something very quiet and serene about watching pastoral animals. I'm also very aware that there are people who say we shouldn't eat cows and they produce too much methane and all that. And I'm just sitting there going like, there are these massive mountains that are just filled with pastures. What else works on these mountains but cows? Now this woman here, an older woman, the cows have come in, but not the cow she's looking for. So she's going out to find the missing cow. And this is what you do. This is what she does every night. She looks for her cows to come in, and the cows just kind of come in. This horse was, you might, if you really look really closely, might see a rope attached to one foot. This is just his home for the day. He's grazing and eating grass. They don't want the horse to run away. He's a young horse. Later I saw a young Georgian girl, probably about 5-6 years old, being walked on that horse with her father. And so it's a pretty nice looking horse. It's a young, I'd say maybe still a foal. I don't know my horse terminology and when they become, this is just a really sleek, wonderful looking horse. But you see a lot of horses, and in fact people ride horses still to get the cows. It's the best way to get around sometimes in certain areas, so they raise horses as well as cows. Not as many, but still. Now I saw this hole in the side of the mountain where I was just standing there. And I don't know, maybe it's just me, but I see a kind of an open cave in the side of a cliff or a mountain or a hill, and it beckons. There's something about that. Maybe it's millennia of being cave people and, seeing that as a source of protection or a source of horror. Caves are multiple that way. And of course, the woman has to bring her cow back. She's still out there looking for it. And sometimes I just like these little scenes. There's just an old decaying, looks like a bus or a truck of some sort, their cart. And that just ends up being part of the landscape after a while. And there's quite a few of these in this village. There's a cow. Looks pretty full of milk. And the woman's kind of doing that. She hasn't got a stick or anything. And her and the cow obviously know each other well. And then there's this guy who's probably tagging along. I don't think he's connected to them, but he's just sitting there saying, hey, I don't even see udders on that. So maybe it's a young cow that hasn't given milk or given birth for the first time. And so as the sun was going down, you could see a couple of the shrines that I wanted to go up and see. You can just see the outlines of them in the sundown. Now, I was in the house as it got dark, turned the light on outside. I didn't do it. There were these other folks staying there. And then the owner came and said he wanted to talk to me. Now it was dark, and someone was standing on part of that, and I stepped out and fell down that stair, bad cement, onto that rock. and gouged my forearm. Was gouged up. I immediately went and put like bacitracin on it, and I did have enough bandage material that I had brought with me, and within a day I was fine. And but this is what the owner felt bad about, and he said later he would give me some sort of deal next time I came up, which is fine. The guy needs to be supported, and he needs to work on that those steps. So this is the next morning, and there's the cemetery. I was walking the direction those cows were coming from, and just looking around. I also had it in my mind. I thought about this last year when I was here. I wanted to go look for those shrines up in the hills. And I took what looked like the road up to the place where I might cut off to go up to the mountains. And I ended up at this rather picturesque kind of dead end. I kind of like these old fences and trees, just, the stone wall. But eventually, I realized it was a little further up, so I walked up past the cemetery, past some more farm fields, past these what looks like stone walls, or maybe, it's the remnants of some sort of stone wall. And this, you can see just now coming into view, is the trail that goes up the mountain. And it gets a bit steep, and I was out of breath. And I was wondering why I was out of breath. I mean, I'm not an athlete, but still, it didn't seem that steep. Oh, that's why. I'm over 7,000 feet up. Okay. So that's the answer. I'm about 7,000 feet in the air, going up the side of a mountain. It just looks like a hill to begin with, but it turns into this steep mountain after a while. This is the first of the 4 shrines I was looking for. And I don't know if you can tell, but if I take 1 or 2 more steps, I'm falling down a cliff right there. And there's the village of Snow, as seen from above. We'll see it some more. And here's the Snow Gorge back here. And there's that little stream. And the road that I was walking on goes alongside the stream. But here is the shrine. Now, why is this here? I'm not exactly sure. It may commemorate, very likely commemorates the death of someone. But quite fascinating. So then I walked along, and now I'm starting to keep an eye out for where the trail is. And sometimes, especially here, I'm near an open meadow, and so the trail gets a little harder to find because people tend to spread out at meadows. But then I found it. I have hiked up a very rugged trail to get to the second shrine, second of what I believe are 4. And what's interesting is they seem to go further back in time the higher you go, which is odd. And when you think of all the stone, and there's a cross here that's obviously one large piece of cement, and the work it must have taken. But then again, that stone might have just been found here, because there is slate everywhere. This mountain is just filled with slate. Slate is what these people use to build with. And I have spectacular views, to say the least. I'm sitting in a grove of trees next to a meadow near the shrine. Somehow this encapsulates Georgia. There's water coming down through the gorge. Mountains that also serve as meadows for the cows. Below is the small town of Snow, the village really. And I keep thinking about the layers of Georgia. There's obviously a very 21st century layer, which includes very large supermarkets and shopping malls and many modern materials and bad architecture. But then if you scrape beneath that, you start finding the remnants of the Soviet past, of the Russian past. A village like Snow has architecture going back 300, 400, 500 years or more into the Middle Ages. Buildings with slate. And how long has this place been here? There is an area called the Trousseau Gorge, which I'm hoping to get into on this trip, which is abandoned. The whole area is abandoned because people just got tired of living in the difficult conditions. Transportation and other things changed, and so they left by the 1950s. And beneath the Middle Ages, you eventually come back to antiquity. The land of the Romans, or the Romans tried to conquer. The land of Jason and the Argonauts. And before that, you come to the original settlers of Georgia, different tribes, people who invented wine. 6,000 years before Christ. And before that, it just goes back into time. And obviously I also found a lot of wildflowers while I was there. This was actually a succulent wildflower. I don't know if wildflower is the right word for a succulent. And eventually I suppose it does. But, in the cactus family overall, succulents and cacti. This was a wild rose. Look at those little red stamen on there. Pretty amazing. And this was a ladle that I found when I was just sitting taking a rest at one point. I looked over and there it was. And it makes you wonder what the story is. Why is there a ladle left here? Was someone doing eating there? Possibly. Maybe someone made a little fire. Now I'm up at the next level, going to the next, looking for the next shrine, the third shrine. By the way, it turned out there were actually 5 shrines. And I'll keep saying there are 4, but I didn't notice till I got down. There was one way on the other side that was halfway down the hill on the other side. And the reason I didn't go down it is because I wasn't sure where it came out. That is, I didn't want to come out in the wrong spot. But this was, in some ways, the most fascinating one. Because it was essentially solid. And now it's breaking apart, and we'll see it from the back end in a moment. But it has this eerie quality, solid stone cell. Just fascinating. And this is the kind of thing one finds all throughout the Caucasus. Towers, shrines, old villages, things like that. So this is completely solid on the inside. There was no door going in. Maybe it was a tomb. I don't know. What do you think? What do you think was in there? Maybe you know and I don't. Well, I made it to the third tower, the third shrine. And this is the biggest of all four, but it's probably not the oldest. And I'm on the shady side because it is a scorching hot day today, even up in the mountains. Probably around 27 degrees, 80 degrees Fahrenheit. But what a trip. It's an amazing place to come to. And one of the things I'm realizing is that there are many people who just go to a place, look around it for a day, and leave. Well, what I've discovered here, is not the kind of place you're going to go to immediately and go like, ooh, look at those shrines. I think I'll walk up there. It takes a while to find the trail. It takes a while to get up here, that's for certain. And when you do, though, you are rewarded with amazing views. And so we will continue on to the fourth shrine. So this is coming around the front of the shrine, the part overlooking the cliff. I did not walk in front of this, although look at the way it's constructed. You have this almost looks like petrified wood in a way, but it's not. It's some kind of slate schist sort of material. But you see that part that looks like it's hanging over? It is. I mean, when you go under, if you go under it, it's literally above you. And not that I was afraid of it falling immediately. I figured it stood there for a while. But if anything came up, it would fall. And obviously parts of it have fallen before. So, but a fascinating structure. There's another view up the snow gorge. And this is the fourth shrine coming up. And there's the village of snow behind it. This is the one you see most clearly, although, like I say, there is a fifth one further down the other side. And I can't describe how it was up here. There was a sense, the shrines, the antiquity of it, these go back to the Middle Ages. It's just, one does get a sense of the spiritual here, in a genuine sense, not the I'm spiritual, not religious sense, but in the real religious sense of being filled with the Spirit. And we'll get closer into this last shrine in a moment. And if you look in the background, you can see the tower, the fortress of snow rising up. We'll get a better view of it in a moment here. And that, again, is a late medieval structure. There there was a trail that went through this area, out through, to continue on that road beyond what you can see. It goes up to Juta, which I've already done a video on, and you should look for those videos on Juta. But going past there is a road that goes up into Chechnya and Dagestan and those places. And so this was essentially a fortress to protect, but also a bit of a toll road too. So, and here you can get a very good view of the fortress from the shrine. But we're going to go into the shrine in just a moment. I wish I could convey what you cannot possibly get through a visual image, and that is the sense of the wildflowers and the mint and the what we would call pineapple grass, that kind of lemony scent, and it's just completely fragrant. It's just heavenly. So the final shrine is really a place to come pray. And there are matches and candles, icons. And I'm guessing if you come up here, you really mean it. This is not just your regular go to church prayer. This is a prayer that says, I am desperate, O Lord. Look upon me with mercy. I am a sinner. Please hear me. The thief in me would love to have taken that icon. But, of course, the Christian in me says, don't you dare. I found an old saw up there. Only had one handle. Probably still could cut with that one handle. And across the valley, there is another shrine on the opposite side of the gorge. Now, I wouldn't dare go up to that one because it looked... I could probably do it pretty easily, but it looked pretty dangerous going up there. And that was certainly a tomb of some sort. And here's the stream going through the village with some prickly thistles in the way. Yes, I did cross that, and yes, it was rickety, and I did not spend a lot of time on it. If you look at some of the videos I took last time I was in snow, there was not as much water going through it as there is this time. This time the water was just pumping. Part of it was warm, and whatever snow was left in the mountains was coming down. Very fresh, clean water though. And I took this particular shot when I was sitting eating a bit of smoked fish that I had picked up, and I was sitting on the other side, on the grassy side, on the other side of that little plank that crosses the stream. And there's snow, and looking just as the sun's going out on the second day, and you can probably get an idea why I keep coming back here. And the nice thing about coming back here, nobody knows about it. Nobody comes here. Yeah, every now and then, like I say, there was a Georgian family staying there for a couple of days. I was there 4 days. They were only there 2. But generally, this is not a place that's on many maps. So this is something, to me, this is the real Georgia. what you get up in the mountains. There's the Niva that I've been driving, the Lada Niva, which will turn out to be an incredible monster of a vehicle for the next trip up the Trousseau Gorge. So come back for that, and we'll just say goodbye to the shrines one more time. Well, you have to admit, that hike into the mountains looking for the 4 shrines, quite fascinating. And what I like about this is it's nothing that's on much of a tourist map at all. Most people don't know anything about this, which is what I like. I like getting alone, being by myself, not in the middle of the hustle and bustle. There is a cohort of people who go up to Gergeti, and many people who stop in at Stepans. I mean, fewer people who go all the way to Dariali Gorge, but we've got more planned on this trip, so I hope you're going to find this pretty fascinating. We're going to try to get into the mysterious Trousseau Gorge area, but not today. Come back for more Georgian Crossroads very soon. Nakwamdis, and in this time we say Kagad Ik Havi.